Welcome to HFY Galaxy Tales. Like this video and subscribe the channel for more HFY stories. Listen, I've seen some weird stuff in my 300 cycles serving on the Galactic Archive Commission. You think humans are odd? Try cataloging a species that communicates exclusively through interpretive flatulence. But this was different. My name is Krell, and yeah, I know what you're thinking. Oh great, another bureaucrat with tentacles and an attitude problem. You're half right. I don't have tentacles. I'm a Vran, which means I look vaguely like what would happen if a praying mantis and a philosopher had a baby that refused to skip leg day. The day everything went sideways started like any other boring rotation on Archive Station Theta. My partner, Boren, yes that's actually his name and yes he lives up to it, was doing his usual thing of pretending to scan documents while actually watching zero-gravity sporting events on his neural implant. Krell, he droned without looking up, the human delegation is here. I felt my secondary eyelids twitch. Great. Humans. The galaxy's newest members, and somehow already the most annoyingly persistent ones. They'd been petitioning for full archive access for months, claiming they needed to cross-reference their historical records with ours. Send them to Conference Bay 7, I clicked, my mandibles making that sound Boren says reminds him of someone cracking their knuckles underwater. Already done. They specifically requested you. Of course they did. The human delegation consisted of exactly one person, which should have been my first clue that this wasn't a standard diplomatic mission. She stood maybe 1.6 meters tall, with dark skin and hair twisted into what I'd learned humans called locks. Her eyes had this unnerving quality of looking directly at you, not through you or past you like most species, but at you, like she could see the exact moment you decided to stop caring about your job. Dr. Krell. She extended her hand, and I reluctantly touched it with my foreclaw, completing their bizarre tactile greeting ritual. Just Krell. The doctor thing makes me sound pretentious. You are. Maya Torres. Linguistic archaeologist, Earth Historical Society. She smiled, showing far too many teeth. Humans did that when they were being friendly, I had to remind myself. Still creepy. Right. You're here about the archive access. Look, I'm going to level with you. The Galactic Council is never going to approve full access for a species that still can't figure out unified planetary government. It's not personal, it's just. I'm not here about that. She pulled out a data tablet, very old school, very human. I'm here about a discrepancy. My antennae perked up despite myself. Discrepancies were interesting. Discrepancies meant something might actually require me to think. What kind of discrepancy? The missing kind. That's not helpful. Maya tapped her tablet, and a holographic display materialized between us. It showed a timeline, spanning roughly 12,000 of their years, documenting human civilization from something called the Neolithic Revolution, forward. Standard stuff. Agricultural development, writing systems, empire building, collapse, repeat. The usual pattern for developing species. This all checks out against our records, I said, already bored again. Matches what your planet submitted when applying for council membership. So what's the? It's what's not there, she interrupted, and humans really needed to work on their conversational protocols. Look at the gaps. I looked closer. She was right. There were spaces in the timeline, moments where the historical record seemed to skip. Like frames missing from a video. Except these weren't glitches. These were smooth, intentional omissions. Okay, so your species had some dark ages. Historical record gets fuzzy, happens all the time. The Carithians lost 3 entire centuries to a bureaucratic filing error. These things happen. No. Her voice had an edge now. You're not understanding. These aren't gaps in our records. These are gaps in yours. That got my attention. I straightened up, all four of my eyes focusing on her properly for the first time. Excuse me. When Earth was surveyed by the Council's preliminary scout ships, they took cultural snapshots, right? Standard first contact protocol. Your archive should have detailed scans of human civilization going back, let's say 20,000 years, maybe more. Baseline documentation for pre-contact species. Yes, and I've been cross-referencing. The gaps in your records don't match the gaps in ours. It's like someone edited two different versions of the same story and forgot to make sure the redactions lined up. I felt something cold settle in my lower thorax. This was actually concerning. That's impossible. Archive records are immutable. Quantum locked at the molecular level. You can't edit them without leaving traces that would trigger every security protocol we have. I know. She smiled again, but this time it wasn't friendly. This time it was the smile of someone who just proven their point. So either your legendary security systems have a flaw, which I doubt, or someone with enough clearance that the system didn't even register it as tampering went in and removed specific pieces of human history. Why would anyone do that? That's what I'm here to find out. Boren chose that moment to actually pay attention to what was happening. He lumbered over, his bulk making the deck plates groan. Boren was a Rothgarian, which meant he looked like someone had tried to build a bear out of spare construction equipment and given up halfway through. Problem, he rumbled. Maybe. Maya here thinks someone's been editing the archives. That's ridiculous. That's what I said. Show me the proof, Boren demanded, and I had to give him credit. When he actually engaged with work, he was thorough. Maya pulled up another display, this one showing parallel timelines. Here. Your archives show human civilization in the Indus Valley region developing writing around 3300 BCE, their calendar. But the archaeological evidence we found suggests complex written language existed at least 500 years earlier. Your records skip right over it. Could be a survey error, I suggested. Could be. Except it happens again here. She pointed to another gap. The Olmec civilization in Central America. Your records show them appearing suddenly around 1500 BCE with fully developed architecture, art, and astronomical knowledge. No preliminary development, no learning curve. They just show up, already advanced. Some species develop in bursts, Boren countered. Sure. Except when we dig at those sites, we find evidence of earlier settlements, earlier development. Stuff that should be in your preliminary surveys but isn't. I felt my mandibles clicking nervously, a habit I'd never managed to break. How many of these gaps are we talking about? 17. 17 distinct periods where your archive records diverge from physical evidence. And here's the really fun part. She swiped through to another screen. They all cluster around the same types of events. Which are? Rapid technological advancement. Unexpected scientific breakthroughs. And, most common, the sudden appearance of new written languages or symbolic systems. The conference room suddenly felt smaller. Colder. You're suggesting someone deliberately removed records of human linguistic and technological development from the Galactic Archives, I said slowly, making sure I understood the magnitude of what she was implying. I'm not suggesting. I'm stating. The question is why. Boren made a noise like grinding gravel. This is a council matter. If there's been tampering, we need to report it through proper channels. I tried that, Maya said flatly. Filed 17 separate information requests over the last 6 months. Every single one got denied. Insufficient security clearance. Request lacks proper scope definition. Petitioner species not yet eligible for Level 4 archive access. I've been stonewalled at every turn. So you came directly to an archive station, I finished. Smart. Annoying, but smart. I need to see the original survey files. The raw data from when your scout ships first catalogued Earth. before whatever processing protocol scrubbed the sensitive bits. I exchanged a look with Boren. He shrugged, which involved his entire upper body shifting like a minor landslide. That would require me to bypass approximately 47 different security measures, I said carefully. And potentially violate 6 Council regulations regarding information sharing with developing species. I know. I could lose my position. Maybe worse. I know. And you're asking me to do it anyway because... Maya leaned forward, and there was something in her eyes that made my survival instinct start screaming. Not aggression. Worse. Absolute certainty. Because if someone powerful enough to edit the Galactic Archives without leaving a trace went to this much trouble to hide parts of human history, it means that history contains something they don't want found. And I'm going to find it with or without your help. But with your help, we might both survive the process. I really hated it when humans made good points. Boren, if anyone asks, I'm showing her to the public access terminals. What are you actually doing? Probably ending my career. Maybe starting a small interdimensional incident. The usual. He sighed, a sound like air escaping from a punctured cargo bay. I'll keep watch. Try not to trigger anything that'll make us all implode. The deep archive access terminals weren't designed for comfort. They were designed for security, which meant they were buried 3 levels below the main station, surrounded by enough shielding to survive a direct hit from a stellar detonation. The air tasted recycled, metallic. I logged in using credentials I'd forgotten I even had, bypassing the usual interface to access the raw data feeds. Maya stood behind me, silent, watching. What am I looking for? I muttered, pulling up the original survey files from Earth. The data streamed past, terabytes of information collected over decades of covert observation. Start with the Sumerian period. Around 3500 BCE. I filtered the data, and there it was. Cultural documentation from the Mesopotamian region. Clay tablets, architectural surveys, population estimates. Everything you'd expect. Looks clean to me, I started to say, then stopped. There was a notation in the file. Tiny. Almost invisible unless you knew what you were looking for. A reference tag pointing to a secondary file. I opened it. The screen went blank. Not error blank. Not corrupted data blank. Deliberately, intentionally blank. A void where information should have been. Well, I said quietly. That's not good. Maya leaned in closer. Can you trace where it went? Maybe. The archive system keeps metadata logs for everything. Even deletions leave shadows. My claws danced across the interface, following digital breadcrumbs through layers of code. The trail led somewhere I really didn't want it to go. The deletion was authorized by someone with alpha-level clearance, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. There are maybe 12 beings in the entire galaxy with that kind of access. Can you see who? No. The authorization was logged, but the identity is sealed under. I trailed off, reading the classification level. Under Council Founder Protocols. What does that mean? I turned to look at her, feeling 400 cycles of comfortable routine crumbling around me. It means whoever erased these files isn't just powerful. They're one of the original founders of the Galactic Council itself. The species that built this entire civilization. Maya didn't even blink. Humans had this disturbing tendency to react to galaxy-shattering revelations like someone had just told them their food order was delayed. So one of the founder species has been scrubbing human history from the archives, she said, as casually as if discussing the weather. Any way to narrow down which one? Are you not, I don't know, terrified? Concerned? Mildly worried? I clicked my mandibles in what I hoped conveyed appropriate alarm. These are beings that literally built the framework for interstellar civilization. They have technology we still can't replicate after thousands of years. And apparently one of them is very interested in keeping parts of your history secret. Oh, I'm terrified, she said, still examining the blank screen. I'm just also really, really curious. And in my experience, curiosity tends to outlast terror. She tapped the display. Can you track when the deletions occurred? I manipulated the interface, pulling up temporal metadata. The first deletion happened approximately 8,000 years ago. The most recent was. Oh no. What? 6 months ago. Right after Earth submitted its Council membership application. We both fell silent, the implications settling over us like a toxic cloud. Someone had been actively monitoring and editing human historical records for millennia. And they'd accelerated their efforts the moment humans tried to join the broader galactic community. We need to find an unedited source, Maya said, pacing now. Her boots made sharp sounds on the metal floor. Somewhere the founders couldn't reach. That's insane. The founders built the archive system. There is nowhere they can't reach. What about backups? Redundancies? You bureaucrats love your redundant systems. I hated that she was right. There are regional archive nodes scattered throughout Council space. But they sync with the main archives daily. Whatever got deleted here would get deleted there too. Unless, Maya's eyes lit up with that particularly dangerous kind of human inspiration, unless there's a node that's been out of sync. Disconnected from the network. That would violate about 1,000 maintenance protocols. Any node offline for more than 72 hours triggers automatic investigation and, I stopped, a memory surfacing. Oh. Oh no. What? Archive Node 17. It went dark about 15 years ago during a solar flare event. Standard procedure would be to restore it immediately, but it was in a disputed territory between the Kelthari and the Vorex Collective. Both sides claimed jurisdiction, neither would allow Council ships to approach for repairs. So it's been sitting there, offline, with potentially unedited data for 15 years. If it survived. If the radiation didn't fry every storage crystal. If it hasn't been destroyed in the territorial disputes. If. Maya grinned. That terrifying human expression of joy mixed with recklessness. So we're going on a field trip. Absolutely not. That region is a war zone. The Kelthari and Vorex have been shooting at each other for decades. We'd be vaporized before we even crossed into the neutral zone. Do you have a better idea? I didn't. I really didn't. And that's how I found myself 2 days later, crammed into the smallest, most uncomfortable scout ship the Archive Commission possessed, headed toward a region of space that even pirates avoided. Boren had refused to come, which showed he had more survival instinct than I did. Instead, I'd brought along Rix, a junior archivist who was either very brave or very stupid. Possibly both. Rix was a Palaxian, which meant they looked like a floating cluster of bioluminescent jellyfish stuffed into a vaguely humanoid containment suit. They communicated through patterns of light that my translator rendered as speech. This is exciting, Rix pulsed cheerfully. I've never been in a potential combat situation before. Your enthusiasm is deeply unsettling, I muttered, checking our navigation for the 7th time. Maya sat in the co-pilot seat, reviewing everything we knew about Node 17. According to the original installation records, it was designed to monitor the spin-ward frontier regions. It would have been collecting data on pre-contact civilizations in that sector. Earth is nowhere near that sector, I pointed out. No, but the survey ships that eventually reached Earth would have filed preliminary reports through the closest nodes before transmitting to the Central Archives. If Node 17 was still operational when Earth was first surveyed, it might have copies of the original, unedited reports. That's a lot of ifs and mights to risk our lives on. You have a better hobby? Actually, I had several. They all involved staying alive and not angering ancient powerful species. But here I was anyway. The disputed zone appeared on our sensors as a mess of debris fields, weapons platforms, and aggressive scanner pings. Rix's lights flickered nervously. There are 17, no, wait, 24 distinct weapon locks on us, they reported. Fantastic. Broadcast our Archive Commission credentials. Loud and continuous. The ship's communication array began transmitting our identification on every available frequency. Archive personnel were supposed to be neutral, protected under Council law. Of course, that assumed the people shooting at us cared about Council law. A proximity alert screamed. Something big was moving to intercept us. Keltheri destroyer, bearing 270, Maya read from the scanner. They're hailing us. Put them through. The view screen flickered to life, showing a Keltheri commander. They looked like someone had tried to build a dragon out of chrome and geometric shapes. Beautiful and utterly lethal. Archive vessel, you are in restricted space. Explain your presence or be destroyed. I clicked my mandibles in what I hoped was a respectful manner. Commander, we're on a maintenance mission to Archive Node 17. Non-military operation, fully sanctioned by Council regulations. That node has been non-functional for 15 cycles. There is nothing to maintain. Nevertheless, we have authorization to attempt recovery of the data cores. This is a preservation mission, not a strategic operation. The commander's crystalline eyes narrowed. You choose an interesting time for preservation. The Vorex launched an offensive just 6 hours ago. This entire sector is about to become a battlefield. All the more reason to recover the data before it's destroyed, Maya interjected, and I wanted to strangle her for drawing attention to herself. The commander focused on her. A human. How novel. Your species has only just joined the Council, and already you venture into war zones. Either very brave or very foolish. I've been told both, Maya replied calmly. Probably a bit of each. Something that might have been respect flickered across the commander's features. Very well. You have 4 hours before our defense perimeter contracts. After that, I cannot guarantee your safety. The node is located at coordinates 447-889-223. I hope whatever you seek is worth your lives. The transmission cut off. 4 hours, Rix pulsed anxiously. That's not very much time. Then we'd better move fast, I said, plotting a course to the coordinates. Archive Node 17 looked worse than I'd feared. The facility was a sprawling structure built into an asteroid, and it showed 15 years of neglect. Hull breaches, radiation scoring, and what looked suspiciously like weapons damage scarred its surface. Someone's been shooting at it, Maya observed. Probably both sides, just to be thorough, I said, maneuvering us toward the docking port. Rix, run a structural integrity scan. I need to know if we're going to get crushed the moment we step inside. Scanning now. Structure is compromised but stable. Atmosphere is. Well, there isn't any. We'll need suits. 20 minutes later, we were floating through the darkened corridors of Node 17. Our suit lights cut through the darkness, revealing walls covered in frost and debris. The station was completely dead, no power, no heat, no life support. The data core should be in the central chamber, I said, consulting my layout map. Follow me and watch for structural failures. We made our way deeper into the facility. The silence was oppressive, broken only by our breathing and the occasional creak of stressed metal. Rix's bioluminescence provided an eerie secondary light source, casting strange shadows. The central chamber was massive, designed to house rows upon rows of data storage crystals. Most were dark, their quantum matrices degraded beyond recovery. But in the center, encased in emergency shielding, one core still flickered with faint light. It's active, Rix pulsed in amazement. The emergency power system must have kept it operational. I approached the core carefully, running diagnostics. It's got maybe an hour of power left. After that, the data degrades into noise. Can you access it? Maya asked. I can try. I connected my portable interface to the core, bypassing dead security systems. Data began streaming across my display. Survey reports, cultural analyses, xenological assessments. Thousands of them. Search for Earth, Maya urged. Solar designation. Let me find the catalog number. Got it. Filtering now. The data refined, narrowing down to reports from the sector containing Earth's solar system. Here. Initial survey reports from 12,000 years ago. That's before any of the gaps in the timeline, Maya said, moving closer. What does it say? I opened the first file, and my blood went cold. It's a contact report, I said slowly. From a survey team documenting a pre-industrial civilization on Earth. But that's impossible. Humans weren't supposed to have been contacted until your 20th century. Keep reading, Maya's voice was tight. I scrolled through the report. It detailed a covert observation mission to Earth, specifically to a region the survey team identified as Mesopotamia. They'd been monitoring human development, taking cultural samples, documenting linguistic evolution. And then I reached the section that made everything click into place. They weren't just observing, I whispered. They were teaching. What? The survey team made direct contact. Deliberately. They introduced concepts. Writing systems. Mathematical principles. Astronomical observations. They accelerated human development. Maya grabbed my arm, her grip painful even through the suit. Who? Which founder species? I pulled up the mission authorization codes, traced them back through the archive hierarchy. When I found the answer, I understood why someone had gone to such lengths to hide it. The Archons, I said. The first species to achieve faster than light travel. The founders of the Council itself. They've been guiding human development for 12,000 years. Why? Why would they do that? I kept reading, finding report after report. The Archons had made contact dozens of times throughout human history. Always covert. Always carefully measured. Introducing just enough knowledge to push humanity forward, but never so much that it would be obvious. According to these files, they've been conducting an experiment. Testing a hypothesis about species development and cultural evolution. Humans weren't discovered by accident. You were selected. Cultivated. That's insane, Maya said, but her voice lacked conviction. If that's true, why hide it? Why scrub the records? I found another file, this one marked with the highest security classification. Because the experiment went wrong. Or maybe too right, depending on perspective. I opened it, reading the translated text aloud. Human subjects demonstrating unexpected adaptive capacity. Linguistic development exceeds all models. Technological innovation occurring at rates deemed dangerous. Recommendation: suspend direct intervention, implement observation-only protocols, and suppress evidence of contact to prevent. The file corrupted, the last sections dissolving into static. Prevent what? Rix pulsed nervously. I didn't get to answer. Our suit communicators erupted with warnings. The Keltheri commander's voice cut through the static. Archive vessel, you need to evacuate immediately. The Vorex fleet has broken through our lines. They're headed directly for your position. You have minutes, not hours. We're not done here, Maya protested. We're done enough, I said, already downloading everything I could grab from the core. We've got the evidence. Now we need to survive long enough to use it. We ran. Through corridors, back to the docking port, throwing ourselves into the scout ship with seconds to spare. I fired the engines without waiting for proper clearance protocols, blasting away from the asteroid just as Vorex weapons fire began tearing the node apart. They're targeting the archive specifically, Rix observed, watching the destruction on our rear sensors. Of course they are, I said grimly, dodging weapons fire. Someone doesn't want this information getting out, and they're willing to start a war to make sure it doesn't. The Archons? Maya asked. Or someone acting on their behalf. Either way, we've got bigger problems than I thought. We barely made it past the Kelthari defense perimeter. Our ship took 3 glancing hits, enough to fry half our systems but not enough to kill us. Small mercies. Back at Archive Station Theta, Boren met us at the docking bay. He took one look at our damaged ship and sighed. I don't want to know, do I? Probably not, I agreed. But you're going to find out anyway. We downloaded the recovered data to a secured terminal, encrypting it with every protocol I could think of. Maya stood beside me, reading through the files with an expression I couldn't quite interpret. So what now? She asked finally. We've got proof that the Archons have been manipulating human development for millennia. Proof they violated their own council laws. Proof they've been covering it up. What do we do with it? I thought about that. About the powerful beings we just exposed. About the fact that someone had been willing to destroy an archive node and risk escalating a war to keep this secret. Now, I said slowly, we make copies. Lots of copies. We distribute them to every archive node in council space, every independent information network we can access. We make this data so widespread that erasing it becomes impossible. And then we see what happens when you tell 12,000 civilizations that the species they've trusted to lead them has been conducting unauthorized experiments on developing worlds. Maya smiled. That dangerous, determined smile. Sounds like fun. It wasn't fun. It was terrifying. But as I started the upload protocols, distributing the data across the galaxy, I felt something I hadn't experienced in 300 cycles. Purpose. The truth was out there now. Scattered across 1,000 systems. Impossible to contain. Whatever came next, at least we'd shown them. When humans point at blank pages, they don't just see what's missing. They make damn sure everyone else sees it too.